It is. It was something with somehow the time clock, and somehow it took up some I don't know, some way they weren't able to do it. They're working on that, and it'll be in the next release, which they're saying could be in another 4 months. But you can use the remote display. It's just you can't get it with the internal display. So, but you can get a remote display and mount it still on a panel or put it somewhere next to it. So. The biggest thing probably too is this memory and RAM. Everything's double, the RAM and stuff. Before, when you would do an air handler routine, I mean, it would really jump up, if you did modulating heating, modulating cooling, economizer, you just did all kinds of things. CO2 and supply fan, return fan, and control, and lots of things. The memory would really go up really fast on it and would slow down the controller. We've doubled that now, so it doesn't, it only goes up to like 0.25% of the usage, so it's really good. Don't need as much control. VAV controller. We've changed the VAV controller. The one we have right now is still available, but the new one that we're releasing, and all this stuff I should say is released. It's already released. You can order it right now. The shipping is the 25th. And again, if you get into this connected community, you see all that stuff.
This month or last month?
This month. It gets released you can order it now and start shipping the 25th of the month, of this month.
What about your asset updates?
It's,
Include this new product?
it's supposed to be at the same time shipping on the 25th. So again, the new VAV controller, everything is still the same. We have our standard VAV controller. It still has the adaptive control with automatic tuning, which is a huge thing. It meets the BTL. You can still do the wireless. Again, for any of you guys, new guys, our controllers are bacnet, but they're also wireless. So if you put a wireless flag in there, any of the controllers are wireless. Wireless to the stats and wireless to actually up to our Jace boxes too. So you have to even run network wire. What's new, the new improved, is one of the big things. We have 3 universal inputs now. Before you would run out of AIs because we only had the 1. So now we have 3. And you would have to use maybe a discharge air sensor or a CO2 sensor and use our network sensors, which would add up the cost. Or you'd have to use an expansion module. A lot of specs anymore stuff now, and with all the clean air and everything else, and even school projects, they've added all kinds of new inputs and stuff that they want to monitor. So this takes care of that now, and the savings is almost $100 on a project. So that's pretty good per box. By adding these extra AIs. The other thing is, and it is available to order now, is the N2 model. So we have an N2 model. For you guys not knowing what that is, it's smaller too, and I'll show you that, but everything right now is bacnet that we're releasing. Everything's new. It's all bacnet. But we had our legacy controllers that were N2. And our old N2 devices, some of the stuff's discontinued, some of the stuff we can't get chips for anymore, so it's very hard to get some of the parts and pieces. So we had to come up with an answer, and now what we've done is this bacnet controller, or VAV controller, you can get it in a bacnet version or our N2. The software to configure the N2 version is the PCG software, or it's for other ones it's the CTT software. So what's nice about this, as far as at least right now, there's 2 separate versions. One's an N2 and one's bacnet. Soon it'll be one model that you can also get, and it'll be bacnet, and you can, it'll be N2 that you can flash to bacnet. So you can have it on a job, And then say it's an old job and it's an N2 and you're just replacing some controllers, and the customer wants to go to bacnet in his building, then you can flash it and make it bacnet. But at the first release, right now, it's two separate models because we had to get it out fast. So. The other thing that changed, it's smaller in the design. It was another thing that was requested by people like you, just to be in smaller, to fit in some of the box cabinets and stuff. And again, the biggest thing here is really probably the analog inputs. The other thing is, of course, you wouldn't have the BTL listing for the N2 one. The other thing is, it does not do wireless, the N2 version. So we don't have many. I don't think there's any wireless N2 out there anyway. So you really probably wouldn't need it on the job. Still the integrated actuator, can still do sensing 1-to-1. So all those things are the same. The other new model we have of the PCGs is extended operating temperature. Before we did not have, a low temp model, and now we do. I know a lot of guys have installed them out there in rooftops and different applications, but now we actually have a version that you can actually is a low temp model too. And again, the biggest thing there is now you can put them in packaged rooftops. And some of the network sensors, again, our network sensors actually sits on the bus, the S8 bus, right on the controllers. And now we've added some occupancy sensors built into those too now, which is kind of nice. And I think, yeah, and there's a spreadsheet like this that shows everything. Again, all this stuff is on that community site that tells you all these different things. But you can see, you can get, with displays and adjustment dials, temperature, occupancy detection. So they've tried to cover quite a few different applications now. Instead of having to have a separate CO2 sensor, a separate temperature sensor, or maybe a separate humidity sensor, you can do a lot of it now in one stat. And then also in the wireless side too, which is the occupancy, LCD, temperature, and then the temperature, the occupancy detection. The programming tool, well, here's, I guess, a few more temperature sensors too. Oh, here's another good one. Now, also, the controllers can support 10K ohm. 10K ohm, why you ask that maybe is because Train, a lot of different other brands use that 10K ohm. A lot of third-party sensors use 10K ohm. So if you're changing out an existing building or something, you can use existing sensors. That's one big thing there, from their discharge, space sensors, stuff like that. That was one of the big things that they wanted added also. Let's see here. So any questions on the controllers? And I know I kind of went through quick through them, but and anybody that's new that wants to know more about the controllers, I have a whole nother slide deck that if anybody wants to, or we can stay afterwards for a little bit too and go over some of the new controllers. It's fine by me too.
Pricing on the PCA, roughly, relatively, like double, 1.5 times a PCG, what?
The list pricing was on the community.
Is it?
Yeah, and
That's fine.
No, we'll look real quick though. It's
Yeah, I had the same question. It's not double, but it's a little more.
Oh, I saved it into my thing. I don't know if I did.
Lotus. Wow.
Yeah, can you believe that? Johnson Controls uses Lotus notes.
Wow. They own Lotus?
They're the one.
No.
Oh, they don't? I thought maybe they own Lotus.
No, in
Lotus was
fact,
out of business. Oh, I go ahead and say that.
in fact, we are going to be changing. Can you believe that?
What do you mean changing?
Want to Microsoft. Can you imagine the change of 150,000 employees? Wouldn't that be fun?
Why don't they do something